All right. What's going on, world? This is Travis. We are back with another episode of Hero's Journey. Hope everyone's doing well out there in the world. This crazy, wide world that we currently live in. We have a little different episode planned today. We are doing a new series. I don't know if this is going to branch out and become its own series or not, but at first we're just going to keep it as part of the Hero's Journey series just to, one, keep stacking them episodes, and two, I think it's still part of my personal journey in this world, and I like Hero's Journey to be kind of about me and what I'm doing in my day-to-day and thoughts I have. So yes, it's very narcissistic as I've said, but hey, it's my show. I do what I want. Today's episode, we are diving into American Psycho. Now, this is one of my favorite movies ever made. I was going to maybe make this episode like top 3 movies or something like that, but I just thought it'd be fun to dive a little deeper into American Psycho, the movie, and kind of what it is, what it means to me, analyze the plot a little bit, and dive a little deeper into what this movie is all about. We're going to keep it short though still, so this is going to be a quick one, but I know there's a lot of people out there who love this movie. There's some who hate it, but let's go right in. So American Psycho came out in 2000. It is a Wikipedia says it's a satirical slasher. And I would agree. Now, it's funny because to me, American Psycho, it's not really a horror movie, and it's not even really like a scary movie. I would place it in the drama category if I had to, I would say dramatic thriller, but it is a satire for sure, but it's done so well that it's similar to The Simpsons, where you wouldn't even consider it really a satire because it's just so on the money, where it's like, oh, this is just real life. So what American Psycho is it takes place on Wall Street, and it was written in 1991 by Bret Easton Ellis. Now, if you've read the book straight up is a lot more graphic and a little more intense, and was banned a lot, and was really one of the first books to not first books, but it upped the ante of novels and how writing could be. And if book burning came back at a certain time, that was one of the ones I was like, all right, this is too naughty. We can't have this. It was almost like a Holden Caulfield on steroids in terms of just how graphic and gory and just too much it was. It's just too much. So, and it has a similar feel where the book is it's funny, I need to double check this. Is the book narrated by Patrick Bateman? I think it is. But so let's double check because I can't Yeah, it is. So it's told in first person by Patrick Bateman, who Christian Bale plays as the main character of American Psycho. So American Psycho is a main character named Patrick Bateman, who basically you see the world through his eyes. In the movie, it actually does a great job of also you seeing the world in his eyes. And I'll dive into that a little later about how you don't even know it's real and fake because you're in his world. And potentially he doesn't know it's real and fake. But just to skim over the plot again. So in the book, it's narrated by Patrick Bateman. So you're basically in his head and he's telling you the story. And it's extremely graphic and it's a little much for sure. Bret Easton Ellis also wrote Rules of Attraction and Less Than Zero. So these are definitely satirical movies because they take these concepts and they basically Simpsonize them, whereas you've created this character who is the generalization of a type of person or a thing. So it's just done so well that you're like, well, this is This is just real people. This is just like, this isn't even satire. This is just normal occurrences. But American Psycho does it in such a good way that it's almost comedy. Now, the movie kind of follows Patrick Bateman along on his daily life. I wouldn't say struggles, but just follows his daily life as a person working on Wall Street. And it's funny because you never really see him working, and you never really see Patrick Bateman or Christian Bale, who plays him. You never see him working. You just see him kind of like living a yuppie lifestyle, which was kind of a term back then. In the 80s, early 90s on Wall Street. And it's, equipped with, they have the big phones, they dress the part. It's really well done how the movie really brings you back into that 80s Wall Street lifestyle. But what's interesting is in the movie and in the book, basically, he somehow kind of like develops this like weird like lust or like for kind of killing, I guess, or just for violence. And it kind of is created potentially because he has it all. Like, he's rich, he's famous in his circles. He's basically has everything he needs. So maybe like, what else does he need? What more does he need? And that's potentially what creates that character, is just the need for more, the want for more. And in the future, I'm going to do these episodes. I'm going to kind of be watching the movie and reacting and stuff like that. But I just don't know, for copyright issues, if that's going to give me, a strike or whatever is going to happen there. But this one, I just kind of wanted to briefly just talk about it and go over just this amazing movie that American Psycho is. Now, what makes American Psycho great is, even though it is I would say it is a violent movie, and a lot of people might get turned off because, I don't want to see. It's similar to the first Saw movie. You think of Saw now, and you think, well, that's gnarly. I don't watch people get tortured and killed and all that. Same with American Psycho, especially if you read the book and you haven't seen the movie. You're like, I don't really want to watch that. That's going to be too much for me. But a lot of the violence is handled really well in American Psycho. A lot of it's off screen. A lot of it's suggested by the director and the film to how it looks or what it is. And that approach to it, even though this movie almost got an NC-17 rating, and I think the director's cut might be NC-17, but like, they wanted this movie, when it was getting made, it had so many different things that were kind of going to happen, and they didn't want to happen, and they did want to happen, that by the time it got made, it was like they were just thankful that it got made. And supposedly Leonardo DiCaprio was going to maybe play Patrick Bateman. And I think it was right after Titanic. And they told him, listen, if you play this could mess up everything for you. So it really worked out great, because I think this might have been right after Machinist for Christian Bale, or right before. But right around that time was when you realize, all right, this guy Christian Bale is like, he's what it is. This guy is an actor's actor. And him in this movie, let's just talk about that for a second. Now, Christian Bale in this movie is Patrick Bateman. He is the character. He has become the character, and you're like, well, that's him. Like, I don't imagine anyone else being able to play this. And you kind of follow him through the movie as he kind of is unable to quench this thirst for, I guess, killing and being a crazy person, basically, and becoming this serial killer. And he starts killing people, and mostly women. That there's kind of a sexual component to it also. And basically throughout the movie, you don't really, at first you think this stuff's real, and then there's some weird things that start happening, like cars are exploding. There's cops after him. It kind of like the lines get blurred, and it creates this atmosphere where you don't know what's real and what's fake. And it's very similar to the book, where you kind of don't really know. And towards the end of this movie, when, the twists are revealed and he basically admits this whole movie he's been killing people and he needs to be thrown away, his lawyer doesn't even recognize him. And people are like, what are you talking about, man? Like, and he goes to the place where he was hiding the bodies, and there's nothing there. Like, it's not even really, he's like, well, the bodies aren't there. It's all remodeled. So it can really go either way, and the ambiguous nature of the ending and even what's happening in the movie, it's very similar to like Fight Club, whereas at the end it is revealed that Tyler Durden was fake the whole time. He was just an imagination. He was a basically a cutoff of Ed Norton. It's similar to that, whereas but in this movie, it's not even wrapped up in any kind of bow. You're just left wondering, all right, was this whole thing in his head, or in American Psycho, was he actually committing these acts, and was he actually a killer? You really never know. And I think that's the true beauty. Mr. Squirrel has stopped by to say hello. Hello, Mr. Squirrel. That's the true beauty of this movie is you never know what's really going on. I've watched this movie so many times, and it again, this is my top 5 favorite movies. It's just so amazingly done. Mary Harron, the director, also did I Shot Andy Warhol, which is a great movie. She just handles it so well. Every scene is expertly shot. The cinematography is amazing. The acting, it has an ensemble cast. If you want to look it up, Josh Lucas, Jared Leto, bunch of great actresses and actors, and it just turns into this. It's just a masterpiece. And at the time, it wasn't really appreciated, and now it's become a cult classic. But it really has stood the test of time. That's another thing I wanted to address is that this movie, you can watch it now and still be like, well, this still resonates, even though the 80s and Wall Street and that culture is 40 years ago now. It's still that whole environment and the need and want for more and more is the consumer culture is still here. It's probably worse than ever. And that's what the movie really, I think, in the end was trying to say, if it was saying anything, is that Patrick's his like thirst for more and more turned him into this monster. And then was it even real? Like who even knows if it was real or fake? And you can still um I think we have live chats. We have Dean in the chat. Original cast returning, Dean asks. In American Psycho, you're asking, Dean? I don't know. They made an American Psycho 2 already, which stars the girl from that 70s show. I forget her name. Unfortunately, it's not good at all. I mean, she's awesome, and it could have been okay, but they kind of turned it into like basically like what you would think the movie is, a serial killer movie, a slasher serial killer movie with a little bit of humor. And that's kind of what that movie became. But if they had a new one or with Patrick Bateman, that would be insane. I don't know if that's what you're asking or what, but that would be insane because this movie, it was the fact that they even tried to make a sequel. It's like you just can't do it. It'd be like trying to make a Donnie Darko sequel. Well, they did make a Donnie Darko one. You can whenever they try to make a sequel to one of these like movies that that they usually aren't hits at first, and then they establish that cult following. Whenever you try to like redo that, that's usually where you fail because the movie didn't even succeed at the beginning. The movie was not a flop, but the movie failed. So to bring it back and then it's a hit, and then you try to make a sequel of a movie that didn't do good, it's like you're asking for trouble. But in the end, if you haven't watched American Psycho and you're a fan of movies like Fight Club or ones that just are dramatic thrillers, this movie, I cannot recommend it enough. And I know this was kind of a quick one about this, but in the end, this movie, what it really shows me is that you can create a super dramatic horror type movie, but not have to really be that violent or gory in the film. And it could actually have more of an effect on the audience because you're letting the people use their imagination to express what's happening. And similar to Saw 1, where when Carrie Hughes cuts his leg off in Saw, what he has to do, they actually don't show it. But if you look back in your memory, you're like, how did Saw he cut his leg off when he get out of the chain? But they didn't even really show it. So your imagination created that memory, which was off screen. But all right, guys, that was just a quick little mini deep dive into American Psycho. Please go check it out. I'm sure it's streaming somewhere. Everyone have a good one. Peace.